Hey mathematicians, let's do your homework. All right, our first problem. Shelby spelled 7 out of 10 words. Oh, I'm not even going to read the rest of the sentence. 7 out of 10, I know I can write like this. Correctly on the spelling test. Expressed as a decimal, stop reading. This is 7/10. That's not one whole. But this is my tenths place, so I put my 7 right here. What part of the words did she spell correctly? Just going back and double checking that this 7 is spelled correctly. Yep, not like I gave you the incorrect and you have to find the correct. Oh, that was easy. I don't care about the griddable. You don't need to do it. Just box that. Mrs. Thomas looks at the advertisements from the Sunday paper. We got a store that's giving 30% off, a store that says you can save 2/5, a store that's 1/3 off, and a store that's 40% of savings. Which stores have equivalent savings? Ooh, okay. So we've got 2 fractions. There's 1/3 written in actual fraction form, and 2%. I am not a huge fan of fractions. I think it's so much easier to change them all to percents. So let's do it. Percents are out of 100. 5 times something equals 100. 2 times that something equals 100. So figure out what that percentage is. There is no whole number that you can multiply to get to 3 times something to get to 100. And I do not want you to do, if you know it, this like repeating 33 and the third repeating times 3, while it technically does equal 100, you need to be really careful multiplying by a scale factor with a repeating decimal in it, because more often than not, you will actually end up with a rounding error and you won't get your precise final answer. So when we're dealing with thirds, it's always best to divide them and get your actual percent. So go ahead and divide those and then find your equivalent answers. Of the 6th graders at Tremont Junior High, 5/8 plan to take athletics in the 7th grade. That seems important. Let's circle that. Which represents the part of the students who do not plan on taking athletics? Okay, so let's start with the fractions. 100% or all of them would be 8/8, every single one of them. Take away 5/8, that leaves us with 3/8 that do not plan on taking athletics. Oops, there go my lights. So, bummer, I don't see any fractions that say 3/8. You're going to have to change that into a fraction. Oh, sorry, it already is a fraction. A decimal, and it looks like a percent. So let's start with decimal. Again, 8 is one of those denominators that does not scale nicely to 100, so you're going to have to do some long division to find this decimal. And then it looks like once you find the decimal, you'll be good to go because none of those have repeating decimals across the answer choices. I'm going to eliminate B right away, though, because this 6 and 2500ths would be 625%, and that is not the same as 62.5. So you're choosing between A, C, and D. Number 4, a whole is represented by these circles. Let's count them. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 circles. So we're pretending 5 circles makes one whole. Of what? I'm not sure, but it's our one whole picture. Which model shows the fraction 9/10 and the equivalent decimal or percent shaded? The nice thing is we don't really need to look at those because they don't have numbers to go with them. So we're just looking for 9/10. If this is 5 circles, how do we show 9/10? Well, think it through. This here shows me 1, 2, 3/5 because they're 5 circles. Times 2 2s, that gives me 6/10. It needs to be more shaded in than this. See if you can figure it out. Number 5, Maxine, Sinclair, and Kyle worked on a science project. They are required to give their calculations in fraction and decimal form. This is what each person got. Who wrote an equation that is true? All right, we got to check all 3 of them. 3 and 1/5 is 3.2. I don't know, 1/5? That 0.2 is actually 2/10. Is 1/5 the same as 2/10? Let's find out. Ooh, it looks like it is. All right, Maxine, good job. Sinclair wrote 5 and 1/4, and he wrote 5.14. 1/4, that 14 is in the hundreds place. If this number is 14, then Sinclair is correct. If it's not, then Sinclair is wrong. 4, see that 4 holes and that 4 before the decimal point? That looks good. This 5/8, you need to divide. 5 goes in, 8 goes out. If you get 0.625, then combined, that would mean that Kyle is also correct. However, it can't be B since we know that Maxine is correct. So Maxine's name needs to be there. Maybe it's alone, maybe it's with another person. Next page. Marty read 32% of his 400-page library book. All right, we need a part, we need the whole book, and we need the percentage. Percentage is 32. He has read 32% of his 400-page library book. That means all of the book is 400 pages. So you are setting up a part we don't know out of 400 is 32 out of 100. Find your scale factor. Next problem. The proportion x over 44 is equivalent to 75 over 100 can be used to solve a problem. Which problem can it be used to solve? Oh, it's not actually asking you for the answer. It's asking which of these option choices looks right. So remember that when we did our brain dump today, I was reminding you of these keywords. You're going to need to use those. So like J says 44 is, that means 44 would be on top. And 75% would be like this. That is not our proportion. So if it says is right next to the 44, that means 44 goes on top. If it says of right next to the 44, that means the 44 is the whole and it goes on the bottom. So find the one that matches the proportion in the problem. Number 3, oh, remember I told you these keywords would be important. Part. If you see the word is right next to that number, it's the part. If you see the word of next to the number, it's the whole. So 15 is, 15 is going on top. What percent? We don't know. Of 20, 20 goes on the bottom, and we know that 100 is under all percents. So there's our proportion. Solve it. 18% of a number, 18% is 72. Is means it goes on top. What's the number? One piece of lumber, this is our last problem, is 8 feet long. Another piece is 10 feet long. Ooh, what percent of the longer piece of lumber is the shorter piece? So we've got this longer piece. This would be 100% this long 10-foot piece. And then we have this shorter piece, which is 8 feet, and we don't know the percent. Now, I'm going to treat this more like a traditional proportion and not a percent proportion, because I'm actually going to have 2 percents in it. So for this proportion, I'm going to treat it like I'm doing a ratio problem and less like I'm doing an actual percent problem. When I have a ratio, I can set up a proportion, and so long as feet match with feet and percents match with percents, it does not matter where I put them. So I'm going to put feet on the top. 10 feet and 8 feet. Now, since the 10 feet is the longer one, and that's the 100%, that needs to go with the 10. It can't go under the 8. And then we're going to put an I don't know right here. So you are either looking for a side-to-side relationship, which I don't actually see, or an up and down relationship, which I do see. And that was it. We're done with our homework.